Hi everyone! Happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday!
Happy Friday from Chicago and happy Saturday to the rest of the world.
We're definitely going to talk about something today which is very personal to us, which is emotional eating. Emotional eating is the topic that I discussed in the previous video that I posted on Wednesday. And now we're going to open up the lines for you guys to have a conversation with us, and we're going to explain a little bit more about what emotional eating is and how that leads towards other disorders and complications in people's lives, physically, spiritually, all of the above. So let's talk. Emotional eating. Emotional eating is when you develop an unhealthy habit with your food, and you develop it usually in your earlier life. Things that you learn, cultural and emotional development, that's when it starts, and then it goes into negative directions. But when you have an eating disorder, it's when your eating habits become very compulsive. You can't really control it. When your eating disorder becomes harmful to your body and to your health.
Hey, Shan!
Our lover's blessing. So when it becomes very bad for your health, that's when you have a real eating disorder where you cannot, physically, mentally cannot control your eating habits. So we're definitely interested in talking to you about how we solved our eating problems in a spiritual way and how that actually mirrors mental and emotional ways as well as physical, how all these things are connected into one. But there's definitely ways to spiritually heal from the wounds that keep you eating too much, eating too little, or just abusing your relationship with food. So definitely interested in having your guys' feedback, so feel free. So my personal story, I've had eating disorders all my life, like I mentioned in my video. So when I was a child, I was born compulsively eating. It was a problem. They can tell from when I was a toddler that I had eating issues and that I was just stuffing my face and I wouldn't stop. It was terrible. And it was also terrifying because, not a lot of people stopped it. They thought it was completely normal for someone in my culture to do that. And it was not. So I went along in my process, adolescence into my teen years, thinking that it was okay to eat like that. And then I ended up, having a lot of medical complications because of it. And it was just not good. So I learned the hard way that, abusing your food and abusing the way that you eat your food really, really hurts the body long run. And for me, it was really difficult to get over those things. Luckily, I had Luna's help. She helped me throughout that process. And deciding to dive into spirituality actually helped me so much with my eating habits. I solved a lot of things. I found out that my eating habits were stress, family stress. We're talking about emotional stress, spiritual stresses that I didn't know I had. A lot of cultural stresses where, my culture was just okay with it. And it just wasn't okay. And it's hard to see that. So my life then turned into eating disorders of, overeating, undereating, and all kinds of very bad disorders along the way. But I came out of it successful with spirituality. I was able to sort of turn things around. So that's my personal story, and it brings me great pride to be able to share that with you guys. We're going to give you my best tips, her best tips on how to actually fix that, because we all go through that. Everyone goes through these food hiccups. When you're really stressed out, when someone passes, you go and eat the cake and, eat the ice cream. When you're really stressed, there's ways to solve that, and we're going to help you the best way that we can. So what about you?
Well, the thing is that food is energy. And so I guess because it is energy, it is a physical representation of energy, something we can actually see, and when we consume it, we consciously consume it, and we just intake energy, or, sometimes we just avoid taking energy in and out. Now, when it comes to my own story, I have a very particular story because I was born and raised in my step family where my stepmother had, I would just say right now, I think I'm actually realizing for the first time, I think she was anorexic. Mm-hmm. So she had the really, really bad, I would just say, connection with food in general. And she was afraid that people are going to call her fat. And so she just, she was literally just starving everyone at home. So she would just put like little tiny portions like for food. And it was kind of like a guilty pleasure in a sense for everyone at home to just eat food behind her back. So my stepsister, she was kind of like she would just follow in her footsteps where she would just eat what she would eat. Oh, I'm like mom. My stepfather, he would just do his own thing, and he would just, sometimes he would just say, sometimes he would just go out and eat with his friends. And for me, the fastest way to get energy and not being, I guess, see that I'm eating too much, I would just eat chocolate. And so that was like tiny pieces of chocolate throughout the day. And every like 2 hours or so, I would just eat chocolate to make sure that I have enough energy. So to make sure that she will not, go into the fridge and just find that there's food missing, because there was like that problem too. And also was being shamed for eating, by my stepmother throughout my whole life, literally like till I left Greece. So there was like a thing about my weight all the time, even like what I'm right now, she considered that I'm overweight. Let's speak that way. So I was like, there was always in the back of my mind that I'm eating too much. And so I was always very careful. Hi, Nell. I was always like very, very careful on how much I'm eating and when I'm eating. And yeah, so this has been my own experience, and I struggle a lot to have a healthy balance with food. Sometimes I would just not eat a lot, but I would just eat like small portions, but that have like lots of energy in it. Kind of like chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story because I think the things that parallel all of our emotional eating stories, and you guys can share your emotional eating stories as well.
Definitely, yeah.
It seems to start at home. I had mentioned in my post earlier because like I was having a conversation with my family, and it really starts from home. It starts from the way that you bring in energy into your life. It's how you as a kid, how you learn to bring in energy to your body and into your nourishment.
Yeah.
And how that is and how that culturally affects you seems to live on with us, all of us.
Yeah.
In ways that we can't even control because it's so subconscious, So I think that that's something that we should definitely talk about, because we got to be honest about these issues as adults, because now as adults we don't want to solve this, because it's nothing and we eat at least three times a day, but it doesn't mean you're eating in a healthy manner.
I feel like there are three things going on. First of all is the family environment, what they believe about food, because it comes like from their own families, how they were raised. So you see like the generational, I would just say behaviors and patterns, they come into the house. And so what your mom thinks about food, what your dad thinks about food. So they bring them together and they bring them to the kids, right? To you. And then, from the family, we go to the culture. And we're talking about culture because, for me in Greece, everyone is Greek. And so it's kind of like the family environment with the culture and the country, it's one thing. But here in the US, the family is one thing. And then when you get outside, you get to the culture. So where really are you born? Are you born in the city? Are you born in the suburbs? Or are you Puerto Rican? Or are you Greek? Or are you Italian? So there is a culture of the food. And then there's the even bigger culture, which is like the country itself. So for example, fast food, McDonald's, right? And so there is that even greater, I would just say community, where you have three things kind of like having conflict, because let's say that you teach your kid to have healthy eating in your family environment, but the kid goes to school, and so they meet another kid that comes from another environment, right? And they're like, oh, I'm eating McDonald's. And let's say the kid never had McDonald's before, and they have for the first time, and they love it. And perhaps they won't even tell their parents, or they won't tell their parents. And this is when the conflict starts. Yeah,
100%. Eating disorders and emotional eating habits that end up in very negative spaces. If you guys don't know, and you're like wondering, maybe do I have an unhealthy habit in my kitchen and with the food I feed to my family and my kids? Easy tips, just trying to think about yourself and understand, do I feel full when I eat? Do I have any food cravings that are out of control and I just can't stop it as I need it, You just eat when you're stressed. I mean, a lot of people do that, but it's like the most common thing. But if you eat when you're super stressed, and it happens on a cycle, like it happens again and again, yeah, that might be something that's going on with you. And just a lot of trouble, managing your weight. You just have to, if you find in your life you have to manage your weight all the time, depending on what you're eating, it could be a sign that maybe you do have an emotional eating habit that needs to be faced. So it's definitely, and also if you can't stop eating, if you find yourself not being able to stop eating, there could be a problem. So we also always implore you guys to assess the situation as an adult. We need to see, are our eating habits healthy? Are they not healthy? Because it's okay to say that they're not healthy. You could just do a little bit better along the way and then actually implement new details. And we can actually even suggest things depending on our lifestyles as well.
Oh, Nell, thank you so much.
Nell
thank
says,
you.
You truly are amazing woman, Luna. I'm incredibly grateful I met you, and I also got to get to know incredibly. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. We're here to share our story, and also this is why, on my profile, I speak quite a lot about trauma, because in most of the things that we have talked so far, relationships, food, grief, it usually starts from home. And sometimes we don't really question what comes from home because, there are two things. Because one, we don't really want to disrespect our family and, our parents, right? And the second thing is that it's easy. We just learn that way. And then why would you unlearn something that you learned? It becomes a habit. So this means that if you change in a habit, it means that it will put you in a conflict with your family. As you said, Leo, about sometimes eating a lot, it could be the other way around.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Stress, for me, when I'm stressed out, I'm not eating. So in a social setting, like I've noticed, like sometimes when we go to your family, right, we'll have a hang. I don't eat much, and I do want to eat, right? I do want to enjoy the food, but hi, Mel. Sometimes I'm just like, I can't, and I'm like, this is something sometimes I cannot control. Because I guess I'm out of my element, so I'm just nibbling. And people ask me, why are you not eating? And I'm like, sometimes I don't even know. So I'm still working on that.
True. So for all of you that joined, we're discussing eating habits and how to notice when you do have a problem. Mm-hmm. Because when I look at children, I see like a lot of my own issues when I was a kid. I was always either eating nothing or eating everything, honestly. And that was my symptom where, I wish that an adult would have just sat with me and said, you have a problem and let me help you. But no, I could tell you in my entire life, no one's ever said that to me. Like, ever. They would say, still slow down, but speed up. And I'm like, you're not helping my mental health. I think not until I was able to explore my own spirituality, I then took a look inward and said, I have a problem that needs to be faced, because if I don't, I can't focus on my spirituality because my body's out of balance. So that's this benefit of deciding to look into your inner world and be balanced with yourself. Because when you seek balance, your body's imbalances become so loud. You can see them. You know exactly what's going on. You listen to your body and say, I got a problem. I need to fix it. But it's tough, because then I see other kids go through it too. You know how all the girls in school want to starve themselves because they're trying to be skinny, and all the guys just eat so much because, that's what men do. And it's this stereotype that we put on kids that I don't think it belongs there.
The thing is that I was thinking that, well, when we both actually understood we have a problem, it's when we started talking to each other. Because, so the first time that I sat down to eat with Leo, right, when he came to Greece for the first time, we just put the food down and the food was gone. And I'm like, I haven't touched anything. What happened? He's like, oh, this is how I eat. And I'm like, this is not okay. And he's like, why? So kind of like, you don't, if you're inside the problem, sometimes you don't even acknowledge. And the other way around, sometimes Leo says that to me, Luna, you're not eating. Are you stressed out? So sometimes I get like, are you starving yourself? And I'm like, I don't think I'm hungry. But when I say I don't think I'm hungry, I think I'm stressed out. So I don't say I'm stressed out. I said I'm not hungry. So this is how it translates in my language and my body. My body is tries not to take more energy in, because when I'm stressed out, I feel really jittery, so I have like lots of energy. And so because the food is intake of energy, my body's like, stop, no more of that.
It's true. So yeah, let's talk about the full spiritual aspects of emotional eating. As a lot of you know, food is energy. It's scientifically is quantified as physical energy, and so that when we're trying to bring emotional balance and healing to ourselves, it's very important that our food follows that sort of like framework where we're trying to stay healthy or we're trying to be, you know, fixed in our issues. So for me as a clairvoyant, when I see energies, energy in food does add to the energy of the body. So, you know, like if you add 5 pounds of meat into your diet, boom, you are 5 pounds heavier. It's the same. Where like it depends on the type of energy you're putting in yourself, if it's negative, if it's positive. And the same goes with food. Food is super important because it is how our physical bodies survive. Therefore, it's also very, very important that we use food to bring balance to our body. Sort of like how we use the sun.
Right.
We use the sun for energy all the time.
Yeah.
And we drink water to survive, you know? And water has such an emotional characteristic to it. So using those natural resources, food is nothing but a natural resource that we have to use to survive. But it's all energy. Sunlight, water, food, all of those things. Air that we breathe, energy. All of it is energy. And then the thing that with food is we just dress it up in such an easy way, and it carries all this emotional and cultural importance that we don't embrace the fact that it is our responsibility as an adult to take the food and utilize it as a tool to bring balance into our life. So that's the thing that I learned as a spiritual therapist is that since food is energy, it is now our job to physically replenish all that negative energy that we put into our body and then fix it and heal it and cleanse it. Because whatever you put into your body will leave, and you have to make sure it leaves that way. And we're definitely excited to talk to you about all the tips that we have in those regards. Because, you know, it really does take looking inward to be able to bring it down a notch. So
another thing that I would like to mention is when we say emotional eating, it's an actual thing, not as a disorder, but an actual thing. So when you go out with friends or with your family, they say, oh, let's, you know, have food and just enjoy ourselves. And let's have a nice conversation over like a glass of wine. And so you see how emotions pair with food. And this is exactly what happens during holidays, right? They're like, oh, let's have like a Christmas dinner. Let's have Thanksgiving. And so food becomes so important, because it strengthens the connection between family and friends.
Yeah, that's true. It's like the energy we can share.
Yeah.
So here's a good example. When you get together in a meditation circle or everyone gets together to pray, you're all sharing energy, but sometimes that energy takes place inside the air that you breathe. So like the air in the church or the air in the temple, all around you, this mist of like, you know, incense or just a feeling of like, you know, a holiness. That air everyone breathes, and they breathe in and they breathe out and they breathe in and breathe out. And that energy just keeps running through the room and everyone shares it. It becomes this conduit of energy between people in that act. And food is the same way, like at Thanksgiving. You use the food to connect with the people around you.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to the beach, you're using the sun to connect with everyone. Then everyone gets together and they're just frying like fish. Not us, but it's important to understand that if you want to understand your emotional eating habits and if you have any eating disorders, it all started with the fact that food, just like any other form of energy, was used to communicate something, and something got lost in translation in your life. And that's usually what becomes the problem with any sort of disorder, mental or physical. Is there's complete misalignment of translation. There's like when kids have like a learning disability, it is when the kid can't communicate exactly what they're trying to communicate, and their brain signals aren't communicating properly either. So that's exactly the way food is. The way food is exactly like mental illnesses and physical illnesses. It's when your body and your mind and your soul really can't communicate properly, and the energy just doesn't flow. So if you ever want to find like, which we're going to talk about now is actually the tips that I talked about in the video on how to actually, the steps to get through solving an emotional eating habit. The number one step that you need to do is identify your triggers. You gotta go back to the beginning and find out what is it that exactly started your emotional eating habits, or just your habits in general. It could be you getting angry at the kitchen table. It could be you getting stressed at the kitchen table, maybe even being sort of like hoarding the food into your mouth, or not wanting to deal with the food at all, or just wanting to cook by yourself or cook for others. So what starts your habit? You need to sit down and just write it down or talk about it with somebody, with your friends, and just say, when did this habit start? When did I start to eat like this? How did the habit begin? And then start to really piece that together. You have to find out what started it. It could be people. It could be your culture, or both. It can just be emotional trauma. It could be all those things. For me, it was a mixture between culture and I think, negligence, really. Because, like, me as an adult, I can tell when a kid is having an issue like that. But it seemed like, my parents didn't really see that as an issue. And the fact that they couldn't see that became my downfall. If someone would have stepped in my childhood and told me that you have an issue and I'm going to help you, that would have been great. But no, everyone thought it was normal. So therefore, it's like you have an issue and then you can't solve it. So then no one's actually sitting down to tell you, hey, you got a problem. Let me help you. No, it was, you got a problem. Solve it. You're 10 years old. What do you want me to do with that? What do I do with that? I'm just going to keep overeating because I don't know what else to do. What am I supposed to do? So identifying a trigger is very important to understanding how to turn off the cause. And to me, I found out that number one, family. Number two, good food. Number three, it was just the fact that I wasn't getting the emotional attention I needed, and then I would probably use food then to fill that void. So whatever void I was feeling inside my soul, inside my body, and my emotions, if I felt ignored, if I felt like my parents or my siblings or my aunts and uncles, they weren't seeing abuse that was happening in my life, I would turn to food, and then I would just fill up that void, and then I would just stay quiet about it, and I wouldn't let anyone know. Because, that's another thing. Food was my way of shutting up everything. So as soon as I realized no one wanted to talk and no one wanted to pay attention to what I was going through, I used food as a way to then quiet my mind and to quiet my emotions and to use it as a way of self-abuse at such a young age where I'm just going to, it's just this emotional habit that I picked up as a child. Children do this. They pick up these things. And if you don't catch it soon enough, it just destroys their entire life. Luckily, I was able to find the things, be smart enough to find it, find the root, and extract it. But I got lucky. I can imagine the children who did not get lucky. So to me, that's like my journey on how I found the emotional triggers and how emotional triggers actually happen in our early lives.
Yeah.
So Mel says, my root was fear and feeling unsafe. Family was confusing. But I'm going to say culture more like that. Like it, too skinny, you're on drugs, overweight, then you're healthy or fat. Oh yeah, let me mention that. Oh, God.
Yeah, I learned that from you, so I had no clue.
Yeah. I mean, so in my culture, it was, which, very similar cultures. It was like that because when I was a teenager, I went through my phase of starving myself. And it was a very unhealthy thing to do. Like, yeah, they were concerned, but they didn't take me to no doctor. Like, okay, now looking back, I wish someone would have stepped in and said, that kid needs a doctor. Like, just that kid needs a doctor immediately. Not, oh, stop that. Solve it yourself. You're 15 years old. I'm 15 years old. I don't know what I'm doing. All I'm doing is just suffocating my emotions, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing at 15 years old, except I'm just feeling okay. So for me, I went through these stages of completely starving myself to completely overeating, back and forth. And it was so unhealthy for my body that causes serious issues. But then again, if I'm too skinny, I would get shamed by my family members because skinny means sick. Like, I literally had this conversation with my own mother and their family when Thank you. So it's like when you actually were to lose weight, they think you're sick because unfortunately in my family, there were a lot of people that passed away and from sicknesses that would pull their entire weight down and they would die really, really skinny. So everyone in the family, whenever they see someone skinny, they were like, you're dying. And at that point, I was a regular weight. I was like 170, 160 for the age I was completely healthy. And though, because I heard this cultural difference in my head, I started to think maybe I wasn't beautiful after all. Maybe I was wrong. And it just completely bounced back. So without the support of my family, it fell apart because no one understood actually how to deal with it. And it really is, I feel like even in both of our cultures and both of our stories, usually, unfortunately, identifying your emotional trigger is going to be triggering because it's in your past, it's in your family, it's in your culture, and it definitely starts at home. It's how you're treated, it's how you use food to quiet your mind and quiet the body. And even as parents, they just shove food in children's face to give them candy to shut up.
Yep.
Don't ever do that to your kids. Let's be honest. Don't ever give your kids food, candy, ice cream.
When they're crying to silence them, don't
do
that.
it. Don't do it. It could have just been the thing that did it for me. Mm-hmm. Imagine that I was just, because I was a very fussy child, and then let's say my parents gave me cake to shut me up. And then I took that habit and said, okay, could you imagine that that's what started it?
Yeah.
So never do that to your kids. Never give them a habit that staying quiet is about eating food. No, mm-hmm. Let them voice their opinion, but, get them to express their emotions, but not to use food in a negative way, only a positive way, So I think that's very key. Yeah, definitely. Junk food is hard. Yeah, oh my God. When the family's buying nothing but junk food, jeez. It really is. That's the second thing about your environment. It's very, very key to understand that your environment decides your eating habits. So like when I went to Greece to go visit this wonderful young lady, it changed my whole life because in Greece, everything's organic. Almost everything is organic. So it's like, it changed my life because I was not surrounded by Popeyes and burgers and McDonald's, and I wasn't surrounded by ice cream and people eating food on the street. It was none of that. So I got kind of like a breather to understand what life could be like if food wasn't the focus. And it really helped me fix my habits. Of course, I'm back in America. And yeah, sometimes I'll eat a little fried chicken, but they'll be every now and then. And, but it's now me being able to balance all those things out is very key and important.
Roxana said, I have been addicted to sweets and chocolate to compensate lack of love and affection. Been there, done that, Roxana.
Tell your story and talk about your emotional triggers.
Yeah, so, I've done that. So every time, especially like sometimes when I get like out of clients and I feel like I've wasted like so much energy, I don't need food. I just go to the, to the fridge. I'm like, a little bit like of dark chocolate, just a tiny piece like that. I'm like, okay, I'm full. That's it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do understand exactly where you're coming from. So now when it comes to my emotional trigger, it's just kind of like, almost like the opposite of your story. Mm-hmm. But I also resonate with Mel, when it comes to body shaming because, my stepmother, she was like, she had like her own, body image issues. She was trying to be really, really skinny, like to the point of anorexia. You could just see like her bones. And so she would just, throughout from like, what was it? I was like 10 years old. She took me for the first time to a nutritionist, 10 years old. And she was trying to make the nutritionist to make a plan for me to lose weight, 10 years old. And so, they gave me some vitamins, multivitamins at that time. Mm-hmm. And apparently I gained weight, whatever gain weight for her meant. And then she took me to another nutritionist and I had to go to a different diet. And all the time, we would have like a scale at home, or she would just take me to the pharmacy because this is where in Greece they have like scales to just like weigh yourself. Yeah. And it was like so obsessive. And the last thing that I remember, before, I left Greece, right? One of the last things that I did, was the last summer, I was like eating really healthy and I saw that I lost weight. And the first thing that I did was to call my stepmother and say, oh my God, let me tell you, Mom, I lost so much weight. Are you proud of me? I said it on the phone. Mm. And now, looking back 5 years ago, I said, oh my God, what was I doing? Because I was feeding into her, into that mentality of hers, and me trying to validate my own health and my own weight with her own mindset. Yeah. And so, it's so difficult because if you have been raised like that, and this has been like a topic, like every time, let's say you call your mom or your dad, oh, hey, have you lost weight? Or, hey, are you eating? And it's kind of like a thing that happens like 2 or 3 times a day when they keep calling you, or the first thing that they see, oh, how are you doing? Let me see. Have you gained weight? Have you lost weight? I also had a huge problem with clothes, was that she used to buy almost 2 sizes smaller clothes for me. And when I didn't fit, she says, see, you're fat. You don't fit in these clothes. And so I had a problem going out and shopping for clothes. Wow. Because it was, again, it had to do everything about food. Because I said, oh my God, if I don't fit into this kind of pants, does that make me fat? Or what's going on with me? Or why don't I fit into number 6, for example, when she bought for me and I fit in number 8, maybe she's right. And so that mindset and these learned behaviors were carrying along till a couple years ago. And it was so difficult. So me identifying what was the emotional trigger, what caused that, it was when I had to put a stop. I'm still working on it. I've done a huge progress, like a 90% I would say, but there's always something coming up, and I have to address it. And I have to look myself in the mirror and say, I am healthy. And the way that I'm eating right now, I am okay.
Yeah, it's true. That's something to point out, to tell yourself, tell your friends, your family, and your children that, food and energy that we use culturally lives with us forever. And the issues that we carry with food, we will carry forever, and it will be an ongoing battle, but that's sort of the way life is. Life is always a battle, and just never be afraid and never feel discouraged about the fact that your food habits will be challenged throughout your life. It's very normal. We go through it every day. I go through it every moment that I eat. Every time that I eat, I'm always fighting demons, always. So it's very normal. Never feel discouraged. You just need new habits to be able to solve these things, and we're going to discuss those next on different ways to be able to battle these things, So you're old and crinkly. You will always think about the things that you went through in your childhood. It's just the way that life is, and how you become out victorious will show your strength and character. How else do you think strong people build character? They get over their trauma, and they teach people how to get over theirs. So just think of it that way, and it's an interesting philosophical answer and question for sure. Yeah, that's true, Rita.
Hi, Rita. Hope you're feeling well.
Definitely. So Roxanne said, I didn't get sweets on a daily basis to my daughter. No fast food, but often it was difficult, as other people didn't understand my choice, and they were repeating to me, everybody eats hamburgers. It was difficult to be around others so different with food beliefs.
Right. So that's the thing that I mentioned in the beginning, Roxana. So I would just repeat it one more time for you. So if you live in a culture like mine, so everyone is Greek. So your family environment with the cultural environment and the country environment, they're all the same. But if you are in a country like, for example, like the US, right, where there's so many different people, different cultures. So you have your family, and then you have, different, you have the mom has their own background and dad has his own background. And then they create the first culture inside the family. And then you go outside and you see, I would say the environment, what could be your town, for example, like where like Chicago has like its own eating habits, and then New Orleans, they have like their own eating habits.
That's true.
California has their own eating habits. And so we're talking about, on a little bigger scale.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about the community, and then we're talking about the country itself.
Yeah.
Where the country itself, like the US, they say that, most people don't eat healthy really. So there's like even bigger scale. And now you understand how how these three things could conflict. So if you have very nice, like healthy family habits like you did, and then you go outside in the environment and then your kids see, eating burgers someone else, and then someone tells you why you don't eat burgers.
Yeah.
So that conflicts with your own culture inside your family. And that can be very, very challenging. I mean, you can just show your kids as much, as you can. And remember, it's not what you say. It's what you do. It's what you eat. It's not what you tell them. Because if you say, eat a salad, and then you go eat fried chicken in front of them,
yes,
they're not going to learn.
Because let's reiterate. Remember this. Kids do what you do, not what you tell them to do.
Yep.
So as an adult or as a peer leader, you have to lead by example. Because unfortunately, we learn our behaviors by copying the people around us. We learn like a sponge. So always have your best behavior on for kids because you don't want them picking up your habits, really. So that's going to be really good about fixes. We're going to get to number 2. But to give a tip on number 1, actually, when you want to identify your triggers, an easy way that I used to do it, or a way that you can do it as well, is meditation. You can use sort of like a mindfulness technique where you could either just write down on a piece of paper or just close your eyes and clear your mind and just think immediately the word food. And all the negative images that come up, write them all down. And you will understand your triggers in your writing. You'll understand what actually triggers negative habits for you if you don't know. Just clear your mind in sort of like a Zen state and understand that your subconscious mind knows the problems. You just got to quiet your mind to figure out what that might be. So, definitely. All right, so number 2, the first step is finding your trigger. And that takes some time. The next step is actually making positive changes in your environment and in your kitchen. Actually in your life as well. So that's one of the biggest things that I had to do with eating habits is I had to remove people from my life. It's hard, but it must be done. And you have to understand that your environment really does determine your food habits. If you are surrounding yourself with people who eat nothing but pizza and burgers and fries for just every single day, you will fall into the same bucket and you will fall into the same habit. If you don't have to be in the same household with someone like that, then don't. You need to make your own sanctuary, find your own sanctuary, find a way to get through that without needing other people to be in your business. For instance, when I lived with my parents for a little while, we were clashing because I wanted to eat, fruits and vegetables and salads. They don't eat salads. They didn't eat salads at the time. Now they eat more salads than most, but it just gets very hard, hard to live with someone who has a different eating habit because the eating habit determines your own personal food culture. So sometimes you just have to let people go and don't take it personal. I hope they don't take it personal either, but don't be afraid to let people go if they're in the way of your mental and emotional and physical health, because you'd be better off that way, and it's unfortunate, but it is true. You got to make changes to your environment. Now, putting vegetables in your fridge. Basically everything they tell you, eat your broccoli, eat your fruits and vegetables. Yeah, basically what you need to know is that you can make food taste great if you use proper seasonings, if you know how to cook it right. If you want tips on recipes, I got plenty because I love food. And it really takes you to just be inspired by your own love for food and then taking that and then moving it forward, making sure that nothing steps in your way. So if you guys ever need tips or if you want to write tips in the comments and stuff, let us know how you handle healthy foods. What's your favorite healthy food recipe? Because mine, as I put today, is salad. I love having salads with romaine lettuce and a little bit of that really aged cheese and then some croutons and stuff. And it feels healthy and it just tastes great. So changing those things in your environment, changing your kitchen, making sure there's not a lot of fattening foods. Replace your chips with organic chips. Instead of chips and salsa, do chips and plain hummus. Hummus tastes great. Just a little garlic and oil.
Olive oil, yeah.
Boom. It's really easy. So there's always ways to replace your snacks. For me, nothing to compliment the Asian culture, but American snacks are really, really sweet and really, really fattening. And It's too much. But as soon as I found like Chinese restaurants and stores and grocery stores and markets, I found out that, Western people are eating snacks Eastern people are eating snacks that are just amazing. And they're not high in sugar. they're not at all. And you want to involve that culture with your children as well.
Yeah.
If you can find ways to implement that in your kid's life and people around you, it's really good. I always buy those really very low sugar snacks. They're really good. Really, really good. I promise you. They're amazing. Yeah, we just said hummus and naan. Always in my house. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so good. Popcorn, too. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
popcorn.
Let's be honest. Popcorn. Yeah, that's a very good example. Popcorn, you don't have to have the butter popcorn if you don't want it. I know that butter will clog your arteries real quick, but it's really easy. Really quick tip. Okay, you just get the kernels, the popcorn kernels, and then you put it in the pot, and then you put a little drizzle of oil,
You let them pop.
and you close it, and you let it pop. No salt, no butter, just simple flavors. Boom, solved. That's it. You like your fried chicken? Well, just bake it. Bake it. Just bake that chicken. There's plenty of ways to bake chicken in such a juicy way. I have plenty of recipes. Grapes, we mix red and purple to share flavors. Oh,
That's so nice. And the thing is, like, when Leo, he came to Greece, right? For the first time, he actually had seasonings. Because in his family, they never really use seasonings.
Only a few, but not like a diversity of seasonings. I've only ever had, Latin seasonings, but there's so much more in the world, especially like in India, the mecca of seasonings.
Yeah, and so what happens is that for the first time, like, he had vegetables in the oven, right? And he's like, how would that taste? That one's gonna taste terrible. I'm like, just add the right seasoning, just olive oil, water, and just let it boil. And just, and then let it a little bit in the end to have like the little crust on the top, and that's it. And then when he had it, he's like, oh, that is so good. He's like, how is that possible? And I'm like, it's all about the spices and the seasonings. It's what literally gives flavor to your food. And this is why most people don't really want to eat, vegetables or fruits, because they don't have many of them flavor. But, if you take like your fruits and you put them in yogurt, and then we have like cashews at home, just like cashews, and if you want like a drizzle of honey, there you go. There, your fruits have flavor.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's dispel some myths. Like, okay, their sweets are not going to taste the same, and, all those things that you worry about. Your fruits and vegetables are going to taste weird. Your broccoli is going to be bad. Well, that's false. It's all about the way you cook it. But let's make a really, really quick example. Are you going to eat chicken with no salt? Is that what you intend to do? Go ahead and boil chicken in your kitchen and just eat it just like that. It's not that good. So it really is all about the seasoning. So you can't get really like fooled by the fact that if you take a boiled broccoli head and a boiled piece of chicken, they both taste bland.
They do.
Okay? They're both boring. I used to have a friend who would make what I call boring chicken. He would just boil it, put it in the oven, and dry it out, and just like put salt, and that's it. It was like boring chicken. There's so many more seasonings in the world that we can use here. Definitely. So never get discouraged. Never get discouraged about that. So for sure. Sharon said you can see you two eat healthy because you two are glowing today, looking fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. So for all of you that have joined us, we're talking about the steps to conquer emotional eating habits. So we got through number 1, which was identifying your trigger. Take some steps to identify what is causing your eating habit. Number 2 is about making positive changes in your environment. People, food, snacks, you got to make the changes. Make it less stressful, because for someone with an emotional eating habit that's very negative into an eating disorder, when you see ice cream there, like really like top tier, high fat ice cream, it's not good. It makes you stressed out. So change up your environment, change it up, because everything has energy and it's time to just sort of let that flow. Number 3 is about making a schedule and sticking to it. Now, that's how I solve my eating habits. You just have to basically stick to the schedule. You have to portion your time and your meals, So stick to the schedule means basically understanding that, yeah, sometimes I can't always do a schedule, but if you need to, you need to. Just take your food, put it in portions, eat them every 4 hours or so, just whatever's good for you, but stick to something because you want to build a habit on your body. And building habits takes about a month anyway, 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my best tip is to actually make a schedule and stick to the schedule. Stick to your schedule. And I know that you guys like eating late night candies. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Hey, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Raise your hand if you like eating late night snacks. Exactly.
No, I can't because I used to like it, but then you go to sleep, but then I have nightmares. So I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore. You know?
Yeah, send all the thumbs up how many snacks you eat a night. Okay, we all love late night snacks. It's kind of something that's in our childhood. See? Yeah, Sharon likes those late night snacks. Exactly. Well, I'm not saying it's terrible, but it depends on the body. Most bodies are not really going to be receptible to late night snacks because it's sort of when your body's slowing down its metabolism. But I'd say you want to just understand that you have to... exactly.
You have chocolate, there you go. I'm right there with you, Sharon.
Yeah, I agree. Like, when I was a kid, unfortunately, my late night snack was like a huge bottle of soda. Like pop, like cola or Pepsi, and that's not cool. So now as an adult, my late night snack, I'll eat like 2 hours before bed. That's the max for me, and I'll explain my eating habits so you can try to compare. But my 2 hours before bed, I'll do something sweet. So it'll be either cereal with berries and a little bit of nuts, or it'll be
dark chocolate is like the best.
Yeah, dark chocolate in the cereal. Those types of things before bed can really help. Super, super help in my opinion. Just anything sweet like toast, like a toasty with yogurt and honey and cinnamon.
And cashews on the top or nuts if you have at home. If you like on the top, so nice.
Yeah, like a yogurt bowl, a smoothie. Oh yeah, those are good. So you want to be able to get your sugar craving at night, but in a healthy way and not too close to bed. But just to make sure that you do that, you know. But overall, when it turns on like making a schedule, my schedule and her schedule, we do small meals every 3 hours. So like throughout the day, every 3 hours, we're eating smaller meals. So we'll take a big portion and then we'll split it in half.
Yeah.
And then she'll take half and I'll take half. And it really, really works well. Because, you know, sometimes as people, we have this thing where we're constantly chasing, dark chocolate and cashews. That's the best. And raisins.
Yeah.
So good. It's high in protein when you do like cashews and nuts and almonds and chocolate and raisins and cranberries and done. Mm-hmm. So anyways, back to the food schedule. So something we can suggest is definitely understanding that if you have a problem with looking towards food, and you're always looking for the food and you're always hungry and whatever, you can definitely eat every 3 hours, a smaller portion, and it allows for your brain and your body to just know that it's full at all times and you don't really need to eat all the time. You don't need to overeat. For people on the other end where you don't eat enough, you want to be able to also stay on a schedule as well, where you hold your stomach and your body accountable to just eat the food and to keep healthy. You know, you got to hold yourself accountable. I know it's hard. I know that it's hard to not eat the late night chocolate, Sharon. But dark chocolate is the best idea. It's all about changing your eating habits. Yeah. So instead of going for milk chocolate, Reese's, Snickers, and all those, you know, candies, go for dark chocolate. You know, 90% cacao.
I can't. No, 90% is too much. I tried that. Remember, I can't even eat it.
Oh my god! I tried 100% once. It's a little bit deep.
I can't.
I'll say that dark chocolate.
I think like 75% to 80% eat is okay. It's edible, but after that, I can't.
Yeah, cooking for one person's. Oh yeah. Because you can lose your head. You
yeah, and then you have like all these dishes for one person. You know, to wash all that. Like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little too much. It's a little bit too much to cook on my own. So luckily, I have my partner in crime here to cook with. But when you're on your own, my best suggestion again is to stick to a schedule. Sometimes inviting a exercise routine does fix your metabolism. So if nothing works for you, get a exercise routine 3 times a week. And you'll see that when you do that, you'll get your body in motion and you'll be able to utilize that to fix your eating habits. So if you can't do it with a schedule, maybe working out will actually help your eating habits and will help you fix things. Your body can fix things naturally.
There's another thing, so like you're coming back. There's another thing that you need to know when it comes to food. What keeps you to eat less, actually? I mean, I learned like a year ago or so, but sometimes when you're hungry, you're actually thirsty.
Yeah.
And so your body needs water and doesn't need food. Spread
the knowledge. Sometimes when you think you're hungry, you're just thirsty. Oh, here, sorry. Okay. But yeah, sometimes you're thirsty. Explain that.
Yeah. So when I learned that, I'm like, how is that even possible? And so what I did was, I started drinking lots of water in between. And a thing that I actually started doing is not just, I'm going to drink water. I literally have like a cup of water next to my laptop when I'm working. So it is on my eye level. So when something is on your eye level, you can't really ignore it. When you see the water, you just grab it. So you just drink. But like sometimes, for example, if I forget to grab a glass of water, I can go 1 or 2 hours without water. It's no good. But I noticed that when I started drinking more water in between meals, the less hungry I was. And another thing I want to say is that Joy,
the cat.
So Joy eats every 3 hours. She eats something really small. Like she eats like 3 to 4 tiny snacks, and that's it. And I started wondering that this is why cats are, I guess, they're healthy and they're not overweight unless you actually free feed them, right? So every 4 hours she comes and asks for snacks.
Yeah.
And it's technically the time that we're eating also. So she eats a little bit.
She's with us actually.
Yeah. She goes to sleep and then she wakes up. And so I suppose we'll have a cat schedule.
Yeah.
Before we even get Joy, right?
Yeah.
But it's a good thing because when you have small meals, you're not really hungry. And when your next meal comes, you don't want to open the fridge and eat everything, right?
Exactly.
So your stomach is like, I'm pretty okay. It's okay to have something small. But if you wait, I remember when in the past I used to wait for 6 to 8 hours to eat. I would just go home and I would just eat a whole pizza by myself. And then I would just so regret it. I would just feel nauseous. And then I would just drink soda on the top of it.
That's terrible. The problem. Let's be honest about the stomach size, okay? You want to know the size of your stomach, okay? That's the size of your stomach when it's not full of food, okay? So you're going to fill this sack with food. And if you fill it up too much, boom, goes your stomach, right? But the truth is, why are we stuck in a culture where we're eating gigantic meals 2-3 times a day when the stomach is this big? That's your stomach, just sitting right here. That's your stomach, and when it has no food inside of it. So when you're just stretching the muscle and it's not even necessary, why would you put this much food in this small stomach? Why? So you have to ask yourself, maybe I should portion my food differently. My body will feel more balanced and respected.
Yeah.
So it's just logic. And every doctor that I've ever mentioned that schedules to are then you're just fine. Then you got it under control. Yeah, but why aren't you telling other people to do that then? Yeah. Why don't you tell other people?
But you know what? It's just they put people on a diet, or they just create different schedules to eat too much or whatever. Another thing that I want to mention, when it comes to emotional eating, some people are stuck into diets.
Yeah.
I've never been on a diet in my life. Even if I have all these emotional issues, with my trauma from my childhood, I never, ever cut things off my diet.
Yeah, there's no need to cut off anything.
There's no need to cut off. And I remember even when I went to the nutritionist, I remember that she told me when I was 20 years old, she said, you can have your dark chocolate, you can have a slice of pizza, but make sure that you don't eat the whole thing. You can just have 2 slices of pizza. It's fine with a cup of oranges, or you can have a fried chicken. You can have that every day. You can have it once a week, and not too much. You can have maybe 1 wing and a couple of fries. But she said it has to be that much of a portion when you eat unhealthy food. You can still eat, but not too much of it. And in that way, you don't crave
Yep.
And you don't, because it's like the guilty pleasure, like when you eat something you're not supposed to eat, so you try to eat more of it.
Yeah.
But when everything is included into your diet, even just a little bit of it, a little bit of veggies, a little bit of fruits, a little bit of fried chicken, a little bit mac and cheese, so many different things. Just go ahead, just make sure that you portion correctly. Like you can just still eat your fried chicken, you can still eat your mac and cheese, and you can still have like fruits afterwards, or you can still have, a portion of veggies on the side.
Yeah.
This is balance right there.
Yeah, it's true. So let's talk about, with the time that we have left, our fourth item, which is rebuilding a healthy relationship with your food. So the 4 steps are my steps and how I did it in 4 steps, how you can fix an unhealthy eating habit. And you will be repeating these steps in your life because eating habits are for life. Everyone has it. If you think you don't, you do. When you're eating unhealthy and it becomes a habit, it's an unhealthy eating habit. So the first step is identifying your triggers. Find out what's causing and what trauma, emotions, what is the trigger that causes eating unhealthy or fast or slow or nothing at all. Number 2 is making changes to your environment so that trigger doesn't happen. Remove the trigger. And then focus on how to fix that, Number 3 is actually then making a schedule and sticking to it. Sticking to that schedule, keeping yourself accountable, and setting the boundaries between you and your triggers. If the people are the triggers, if your coach are the triggers, just let it go. Let it go so that you can heal. And the 4th then is to rebuild a healthy relationship with your food. You could always go back and get to know your friends and your family who eat unhealthy, and that's fine. But you got to rebuild a relationship with food that is strong and that keeps you safe and sane. And ways to do that is to, go to healthy food stores. Whole Foods is yummy.
I love Whole Foods.
Yeah, yummy recipes. Start to just do stuff that is more healthy for you. And just hang out with healthy people. It's not such a weird millennial thing to go out and have a salad. Just hang out with people who have salads. It's like, make better friends. Because sometimes who you are and who you keep and all that's going to really set you in the wrong direction. So those are my best, like a 4-step process in identifying your emotional eating habit and then solving it and giving yourself some clues on how to face it. We all go through these things. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just sort of like human nature that we're born in a world where cultures control food. And there's ways out of it. So if you ever need questions and advice, just ask us because we have a lot of experience in those stories that we have and in those fields of expertise. We can definitely help you out. Spirituality can help you out as well. Just learning how to meditate, learning how to balance your inner world so that your body can balance too can really help. And also just speaking to a medical professional, maybe telling your doctor, I got a problem. It's if you have children out there in your family that need help, tell them these children have problems, they need help. Don't be afraid to speak up. If you need help from a psychologist, a life coach, or even a past life therapist like us, or just someone to talk to about the issue that actually just to find the origin of your problem when it's becoming chronic and it's hurting you, don't be afraid to reach out to people who have the expertise. Don't be afraid because you're not alone. And we all go through it. And there's nothing wrong with you. But there is a solution as long as you're looking for it. Just look for the solution and you will find it. And if you need our help, just ask some advice. We'd be happy to give it.
Yeah, another advice that I would like to give is the way that we rebuild a healthy relationship with food was watching cooking shows.
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen. Master Chef. So we started watching, different ways, how the food is cooked, and then sometimes watching videos, on YouTube, different recipes, even from different cultures. Like because when I came to the US, like from Greece, it was the first time that I was exposed to different cultures and different food, and I was so excited because I never seen food like that before. The only thing I knew was like Italian food, Turkish food, and just Greek food. Yeah. And everything else was like, I had no clue. And so when we came here, I started trying different, different recipes or being introduced to different cuisines. And in that way, I started seeing food, differently. And I took those elements, what I liked, and we brought, to our kitchen. We said, how can we recreate that for us in a way that we love it?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's another nice way. So just go ahead, if you love cooking shows, and even if you don't super love it, just find something that's fun for you. And even like cake shows that create like sweets, healthy sweets to have at home, rather than just buying super sugary stuff.
That's true. Yeah, I love food. There's nothing wrong with loving food. You just have to have a really good relationship with your food. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask some advice, and we will feel very, very much loving and obligated to be able to help you out, because if we have information, we'll give it for sure. Yeah, so it was a pleasure talking to you all today, creating this safe space for us to talk about our eating issues, because all of us have it. Everyone's got it. Spread the knowledge, like and share to your friends so that they can know that they're not alone. No one's alone in this. We can all have a discussion about this as adults. It's okay. So it was a pleasure talking to y'all.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to talk about narcissism and narcissists. So that's going to be all kinds of fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot.
Yes.
Because I have personal experience with narcissists. I was born into a narcissistic family, so that's going to be quite a lot to discuss there.
Yeah, let's discuss it. Let's be honest.
And you guys out there, if you have any topic that you would like us, to discuss the upcoming weeks, just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, suggest something.
Yeah.
We will definitely be able to bring the spiritual aspect to things, and we love to be able to expose that and to help people become more aware that normal issues do have spiritual aspects, and we can solve them together. Okay?
Definitely.
All right, talk to you guys next Friday, and look out for some new information and topics and posts.
Have a beautiful day ahead. Bye-bye. Kisses.
Right. See you, Sharon. Have a good weekend. Have a good
Bye,
weekend,
Sue.
everyone.